Hi, my name is Allison, and I live in Manhattan. I was 3 years old when my parents took me to a beach picnic for the first time, and I went completely crazy. I saw kids of my age playing in the water and building castles in the sand. The moment I touched that sand, I felt disgusted.
Ew, so itchy. I don't want to play with it. I hate the sea. Let's go back home, Mom.
My parents couldn't understand why I was so cranky on that family picnic, but soon they figured it out. I was not like normal kids. I had an unusual fear of germs, so I despised everything dirty and dusty. As I grew up, I became so obsessed with cleanliness that I almost stopped going outdoors and never let my friends touch my toys.
Hey, stay away from my doll. How can you touch my stuff with so many bacteria living on your fingernails? Can't you see it's dangerous?
Due to my OCD and aggression, I pushed away all my friends. But there was a sweet boy named Bill in my class. He always made sure that he washed his hands before meeting me and never touched my things without my permission. I didn't know why he was kind to me, but I felt so comfortable with him that I made him my best friend. He stuck by me throughout the school, and eventually we joined the same college as well. It was our first day on campus, and I was walking with Bill when suddenly he bumped into a senior guy and his mobile fell on the ground. The guy got furious and grabbed Bill's collar.
How dare you not see a guy like me? Nobody ignores Mason and drops his phone. Pick it up and give it back to me.
Bill got scared and quickly bent down to collect Mason's phone. But I stopped him. Don't get that phone, Bill. No one can insult you like that. And then I turned to Mason. My friend did nothing wrong. If you had behaved nicely, we would have said sorry. But now we'll not pick up your phone. Mason stood stunned while Bill and I walked away, leaving his phone on the ground. I tried to ignore this incident, but Bill kept panicking that Mason would soon come and take revenge. Little did he know that something unexpected was going to happen. One day after college, Bill and I were riding back home when Mason came in his car and blocked our way. Bill was terrified, and I also trembled a bit when Mason got out and walked towards us. We were thinking of running away, but suddenly Mason bent down on his knees and began to speak.
You know, Allison, I'm the college bully everyone is scared of, but that day, you scared me. I'm sorry I behaved like a jerk, but I want to be a better person, and I think only you can change me. I would like you to be my girlfriend.
I wasn't prepared for this at all, so I dashed away home without giving any response. Bill was also freaking out about this whole thing, so he came up to me at night.
What do you think we should do? Let's go and complain against him to the principal, first thing in the morning.
I don't know. I'm not really sure about Mason being a bad guy. What if he really wants to change and needs my help? Everyone deserves a second chance.
Have you lost it? Guys like Mason never change. Mark my words, if you make him your boyfriend, one day he'll break your heart.
Bill's words completely went over my head because I was busy replaying the whole proposal scene in my head. There was something about Mason that impressed me, and I really wanted to see him as a better person. The next day, I walked up to him in the college. I'm ready to be your girlfriend, but you gotta promise me one thing. You would do everything as I say and never argue with me. If you agree to this, we can go on our first date right away.
I'll do whatever you say. Now, let's go for a coffee.
I nodded with a smile, and just like that, we went on our first coffee date. I had a great time with Mason, and was surprised to see a completely different side to him. He was really fun and smart, but his ego was a big problem. We decided to work on it. Also, I made him promise that he would never touch me without asking me. I subtly did this because I couldn't tell him openly about my OCD. We were dating for a month now, and I was happy with Mason, but then one day, everything changed. We were sitting in a cafe and eating chocolate brownie when suddenly Mason touched my cheek with his chocolatey hands. I stood up like I had gotten electric shock. What the hell, Mason? Why did you touch me? Didn't I tell you to keep your hands off me?
What's your problem, Allison? I can't even touch my girlfriend's cheeks. It's not like I kissed you or something. The other day you freaked out when I tried to tuck your hair behind your ear. I like you so much, but you make me feel like a trash bag. Either you fix your attitude or I'll break up with you.
Mason stormed out, and I was standing there in tears. During this 1 month, I had become so emotionally attached to him that I couldn't even imagine a day without him. I didn't want to lose my boyfriend, so I went up to my best friend for his advice. Mason and I had a fight. He thinks I'm crazy because I don't let him touch me. How do I tell him about my OCD? I don't want him to break up with me.
I can't help you, Allison. I don't even like that guy. And you want me to help save your relationship with him? I don't care if he stays with you or not. Go away, Allison.
I could see that Bill was hurt because I chose Mason over him, but right now, I had no one. My boyfriend threatened to break up with me, and my best friend refused to speak with me. I was in a fix, but there was something more waiting for me. My life was about to change, but I had no idea. I was busy crying over my boyfriend and wanted to win him back at any cost. There was only one way I could make things between us right, so I went to Mason and lied to him. Hey, I'm sorry about that day, but I've completely changed now. I can prove it to you if you give me one chance.
So you're trying to tell me that you won't freak out if I touch you with my messy hands?
Yeah, I won't. In fact, I've become a messy person myself. You don't believe me? Come, I'll show you. Mason was extremely surprised as I held his hand and brought him to my house. I took him to my room and he was shocked to find my room in a complete mess with books and clothes scattered around. He shook his head in disbelief.
This is impossible. How did you transform overnight? Why are you not bothered by the mess created in this room?
Oh, Mason, you have no clue how uncomfortable I'm feeling with this mess around me. But it's just a matter of a few minutes. Soon you'll be convinced that I'm not a cleanliness freak anymore, and once you're gone, I'll put everything back to where it belongs. Please tell me that you believe me, Mason.
I don't believe it. Something seems fishy. If you really want me to trust you, you gotta do it my way. I want to take you somewhere and test you. Are you ready for it?
I was feeling so anxious that my hands and feet were shaking, but I said yes to Mason and followed him outside. I had no idea what was coming my way. Surprisingly, Mason took me to a public park where a group of kids were playing in the mud.
If you can go and play with those kids, I would be convinced that you're a changed girl. Get your hands dirty and our relationship will be back to normal. Can you do that for me?
Of course! I'll show you that I am not the old Allison. I can play in the mud. See? I'm going there. I pulled all my strength and walked towards those kids. But the moment I touched that muddy ground, my head started spinning. I tried to control myself, but the sight of that mud made me sick. I was embarrassed and crying, but instead of taking pity on me, Mason came forward and started shouting at me.
You're a psycho. I can't be with you. You lied to me. You haven't changed a bit. Who freaks out like this? Why can't you behave like a normal person? You're so crazy that no guy will ever date you. It's over between us.
All the kids were laughing at me while Mason humiliated me and walked away. I went back home in tears and locked myself in my bedroom. I was so depressed that I didn't want to see anyone. I refused to talk to my parents and stopped going to college as well. A week passed by and I was still devastated. As I didn't come out of my room for days, Mom and Dad got extremely worried and called Bill. He was upset with me, but he sensed that something was off. The moment Bill entered my room, I jumped up from my bed and hugged him. Thank you so much for coming, Bill. I thought you would never talk to me again.
But here I am, waiting to hear your sob story again. Tell me what's bothering you. And please don't say it's regarding Mason. I don't care about him, and I won't console you for your breakup.
I'm not crying over my breakup. I'm upset because I've lost my confidence. I don't think I'll ever find a boyfriend. No guy would want to be with a psycho like me, and this thought is bothering me. I don't want to end up alone. What should I do, Bill?
It's all in your mind. Just like you treat your physical health problems by going to a doctor, you just need to see a therapist for your OCD. I'll find a good one for you, but promise me, you'll go and get therapy. Do you promise?
I was always reluctant to the idea of therapy because I never wanted to accept that I had some disorder, but Bill made me realize that until I addressed my problem, I would not be able to cure it. Bill came with me for my first counseling session. As I spent an hour with my therapist, Bill patiently waited for me outside. After the session, Bill took me to the best bakery in town and treated me with my favorite cake. It was his way to mark and celebrate a new beginning of my life. It took time, but after a few months, I could see a noticeable change in me. I was no longer bothered by people randomly touching my things. Once, I was traveling in the subway and an old lady occupied the seat beside me. I was minding my own business, and suddenly, that lady sneezed on me. It was an innocent mistake, and she instantly apologized to me, but surprisingly, it didn't seem like a big deal to me. I just smiled at her and said, "Bless you." I was shocked to see how calmly I behaved. Therapy was definitely changing me for the good, but my confidence was still shattered. I was still hurt by the parting words of Mason, and they often replayed in my mind.
You're a full-on psycho. You're so crazy that no guy will ever date you.
I was just not able to forget how Mason treated me. I wanted him to take his words back and apologize to me, but how could I force someone to repent his mistake? Bill advised me to forgive Mason and move on, but I was stuck on him. Once, I tried to confront Mason in the college, but he avoided me like I was some kind of plague. My heart was broken, and I wanted my revenge. And then one day, karma actually hit back at him. It was Saturday afternoon, and I was at my therapist waiting for my session to start when suddenly, I noticed a guy coming out of the counseling room. The moment I saw his face, my jaw dropped to the floor because that guy was no one else but Mason. I had never imagined, even in my wildest dream, that the guy who became the reason for my therapy was taking therapy himself. He was so embarrassed to see me that he couldn't look into my eyes and immediately rushed out. Turned out, Mason was suffering from extreme anger issues for the past 1 year. Suddenly, my anger against Mason changed into pity, and I laughed at the irony of life. I could have insulted him exactly the way he had, but I was not mean like him. I kept his condition a secret and didn't even tell Bill about it. I understood how hard it was to deal with such issues, and hence didn't want to be the reason for anyone's misery. One fine day, Mason himself came up to me.
Hey, Allison, thank you for not telling anyone about my problem, and sorry for humiliating you that day in the park.
It's okay. You don't need to thank me or apologize to me. I understand you have a condition, which is not in your control. I've been there. You'll be fine. Take care of yourself. I turned to walk away, but Mason called me again.
Actually, one more thing I wanted to ask. Is there any chance of us getting back together?
I really wish we could, but the thing is, I'm in love with someone else now. Mason was shocked to hear this. He tried to know who the new guy in my life was, but I didn't say a word because I wanted to break this news to my best friend first. The same evening when I met Bill, I told him that I loved somebody. He was also shocked like Mason, but when I told him the name of the guy, he couldn't believe his ears. I had to bend my knees and repeat it in front of him. I love you, Bill. I want to marry you and live with you forever. Bill was on cloud 9 as I proposed to him. He always loved me, but I just realized it a little late. Once we both were on the same page, we couldn't wait to share this news with our parents. And they were so happy. After a few years, we got hitched and went for our honeymoon to a beautiful beach where we built castles in the sand.